30 seconds. 30 seconds. You have to use that radio voice.
I finally met somebody that admitted they listened to you on the radio for the first time.
Uh-oh. Is it going to be a second time?
He might even be in this room. Or is that the second one? There's two of those.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, November the 2nd, 2017 Mayor and City Council work session. Call this meeting to order at 3 o'clock. And you all have had a chance to look at the agenda. I would like to add one item on the agenda. This thing sounds awful loud. I know y'all can hear me out there now. I would like to add this item we had discussed, or it had been brought to my attention, and I discussed it with a couple of you, to change our public comments, and I would like to add that to the agenda for discussion. And I would like to add it as item number B2.
We're covering land use. Did you say B as a?
You say B like in boy?
Mm-hmm.
There's no B.
B2 is comprehensive land use.
Didn't have to be there. Make a suggestion.
Okay, just move everything else down. Move this 2 and move everything else down.
Okay. All right, so any other changes?
Yes, I'd like to add, please, the definition, an official definition for the city to consider right-of-way, an official definition from the city.
Where would you like to add that? Just under public comment?
D5.
Any others? Okay, I would entertain a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Wait, we're in a work session.
Yeah, there's no motions. There's no vote.
That's right, never mind. Maybe within 3 years I'll get that straight, Valerie. All right, out of tab A, we have a presentation by Keep Carroll Beautiful, Mr. Josh Engel.
It's not just me. I brought my much more attractive boss with me, Lindsay Fowl. She's the executive director of Keep Carroll Beautiful. We appreciate y'all having us here today. We wanted to give you like a brief update on our work here in Villa Rica and what we've tried to bring to this area of the county.
So in 2017, one of our main goals was to branch out into all the cities in Carroll County, and our first up was Villa Rica, trying to get more recycling events here and things going on. So in 2017, we did our tire recycling event in March, where we collected 1,584 tires to be recycled. And then we also held our electronics recycling event a month later in April, which we've been doing for the past couple years, and we hope to continue to do that, as well as the tire recycling event again. I think that was a great turnout, and we'd love to do it again. We also installed 5 cigarette butt receptacles in downtown Villa Rica. We're hoping that makes a huge difference on the amount of cigarette butt litter.
Hopefully it has. I'm hoping you've seen less, at least in front of Caliber 1 over there.
We have some businesses doing litter cleanups here, and we're actually working on applying for grant funds to hopefully install some kind of storage bin to have supplies here in Villa Rica and make it more convenient for businesses or citizens to do litter cleanups here and not have to drive to Carrollton to pick up supplies. So that's something that we're working on right now. We also held a litter law enforcement workshop, I believe it was in March, to educate law enforcement on the best ways to
Enforce the litter
laws.
Thank you for the representation from the Villa Rica Police Department.
Yes.
That meant a lot to us.
We are currently working on getting recycling bins in all of the classrooms in Villa Rica. I just had a discussion today with one of the teachers at Villa Rica High School that's going to help make this happen. So I'm working with Waste Industries on trying to get the services provided for free, and we have 600 desk recycling bins for the classroom sitting in our office right now to be dispersed throughout all of the schools in Carroll County. So our goal is to make that happen by November 15th, but if it doesn't happen by that day, we are still going to make every effort possible to get recycling started. I think that paper recycling in the schools would make a huge impact. They waste so much paper right now, so I think that'll really make a difference.
Keep a lookout for that in the newspaper, because the Times-Georgian's going to be coming with us to document us installing the bins in the schools throughout the entire county.
That'll be in 2 weeks. And then we also have an opportunity with the EPD for all of the cities in Carroll County and also the county to apply for grant funds for reimbursement on scrap tires. We are holding a workshop December 7th at the 911 Training Center in Carrollton from 10:30 to 12. I don't know who writes grants for you guys or who would be interested in coming, but anybody is more than welcome to come. And this is a great opportunity to speak with somebody at the EPD on how to apply for these grant funds and get reimbursed for scrap tires.
I think it's very important that you may be made aware ahead of time how much money is available with this tire abatement program. Scrap tires are a problem in Villa Rica. They're a problem in Carrollton. They're a problem all over the county. They're blight. They're also the source of a large portion of the mosquito population. So I do ask that you consider coming to this, because there are some areas and municipalities that have got upwards to $100,000 just to help pay for recycling and the removal of tires in their area. Everything that we're telling you right here can be summarized in this. We have tried to make Villa Rica a focus, and what we wanted was an increase in participation on behalf of the city of Villa Rica, and it has paid off. According to the data that we have collected that tracks both the participation at our recycling events as well as the non-traditional recycling in our office, where we take in paint, fluorescent bulbs, batteries, and whatnot, the numbers have jumped dramatically. So not only have we had more of an active presence here in Villa Rica, and of course made our rounds when we did the litter index and whatnot, it went down, by the way, so that's good. The litter conditions in the county have went down. But we have seen, and this is what's most important to us, a higher increase in participation on behalf of the city of Villa Rica, the residents. And essentially that's the heart of what we're trying to do, is we're trying to serve the county. And, you know, we try to serve, and participation is what makes it happen. So we're really thankful for you guys working with us, allowing us to have our events here, working with us to make sure we could have them at the V-Plex and at the Mill Amphitheater. Also wanted to bring this up on, I would like you guys to think about our prospective dates. We've just now come up with a calendar for the events next year, and we would like to have our both tire recycling and e-recycling events in Villa Rica again. That would be March 17th for tires and April 14th for e-recycling, and if at all possible, we'd like to have them both at the V-Plex, because that served as a perfect area for a large amount of traffic to come through and recycle those materials. Of course, I know that I'm going to have to follow up with some other folks to see if that can happen, but I would like you to consider it and consider this a formal request that we get to do that. And also, and then we'll close with this, we would like representation from the city of Villa Rica on our board of directors. Anyone, we understand that you're very busy, and anyone who might think they are able to have the time, it's one meeting a month, we would love to have your input on the long-term trajectory of our organization. And that's it. Thank you for working with us, and we're glad that for the impact we've got to have in this area.
Well, thank you.
Josh, I have a question. We have a cleanup week here in Villa Rica in March. Is there any way, maybe you've already set the date for 2018, but looking forward, is there any way we could sort of make all those happen in that week? Because it would help you, but it would also help us, because we do a really good job of promoting that.
Sure.
But we're picking up tires, our guys are, people are putting them out in front. If there was a place that they could take them, the customers, or if we could take them, then maybe we could help one another.
I think that would be a good idea. In fact, if we could see about possibly moving the tire recycling to right after that week, and I can communicate via email with you and start a dialogue going.
Do you have a date set?
It's the
Third week,
third week in March.
I think.
Yeah,
Third Saturday in March.
it's the third week in March.
That would be
And
fine.
And we could basically set up the tire recycling event following that week, so as tires are collected, at the end of the week, you guys can just bring them over there, and we'll take them.
Well, I'm even thinking during the week, the same week, because we do it for 5 days. And so our guys are going around picking up tires for 5 days. But for those that we miss, people could bring them to the V-Plex, if that's where you're going to have it.
We'd love to coordinate that with you, so just get us some more information, and we'll make that
Okay.
happen.
And I would encourage the council to try to find somebody, maybe we can get somebody to serve on the board with Carol tomorrow. Be honest with you, we want to see y'all more up here. A lot of things go on in Carrollton, and we would love to have a bigger presence here in Villa Rica. So we'll try to find someone to serve on the board to help with that.
If we could put out a call for, citizens that are interested, we could do a citizen appointee even if it wasn't, somebody
Sorry about that. Appoint a citizen that is real, keep Villa Rica beautiful type thing. Can I ask a quick question about the tires? Do y'all have a way where they're shredded and recycled and that sort of thing, so they're not ended up in the landfills? Because I know they're doing so much more with rubber playgrounds and everything.
So we use a company called Liberty Tire Recycling based out of Atlanta, and that's what they do. They break down the tires into
Okay.
raw material and then resell it to make playgrounds and things like
Okay,
that.
great.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a company in Industrial Park that's going to open sometime soon. That's what they do.
I remember you saying something, but then I never heard anything about it, so whoever it is not there yet, I take it.
Mr. Elliott and I yesterday I carried him by the place and talked to him about it, and they were in the building working. I just don't know when they're gonna open, but that was gonna be their main thrust, was to take tires, and basically chip them up. Their out
Yeah.
front is done that way right now.
I should take care of illegal dumping when people have a place to.
Well, if they're gonna dump them, we'll just give them their address. Let's let them dump them over there.
They'll put them to good use.
Thank you all for being here. Any other questions? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, tab B, governing body meeting minutes. You have the minutes, so please look at those minutes from the October 3rd, 2017, October 19th, and October 25th meetings so that we can vote on those on Tuesday night. Any questions on the meeting minutes?
I called in the only one or two things I noticed. I'm good.
Bring those to Elisa's attention so we can vote on those. Okay, the item that I asked to be placed on the agenda was public comments, and Ms. Mount brought this to my attention. Actually, she had said it before, and I listened to it, and what she said made a lot of sense, and that is that when we have special call meetings and work sessions not so much, but especially call meetings, we have our public comments portion at the beginning of the meeting. And of course, the public has no idea what to comment on because they don't know what they're going to hear. So, I thought about that, and it just makes really good sense. And I talked to a couple of you on the council, and what I would like to see us consider Tuesday night and discuss now is that for special call meetings and work sessions, that we have the public comments portion at the end of those two, and continue to have the public comments at the beginning of the council meetings. And again, that way people can weigh in on what they've heard during those meetings, but more importantly, by allowing people to do that at the Tuesday meeting, we may have heard something in public comments at the work session that we need to talk about at the Tuesday meeting when we take action on an item. So I think it's something that's long overdue, and Jody, thank you for that suggestion. So bat it around.
For me, there's nothing to bat around because I came up with that. So to me, it's good. So I'm
Credit taker.
That's a single.
Okay, so it'll be the special called meetings and work sessions at the end. And I don't have a problem with that unless, do you think we should still allow, if somebody wants to do them at the beginning, because they can't stay the whole time, but they at least have an agenda. So they know we're going to talk about, they know the topics, and they might want to say, I just want to say da-da-da-da-da, but I can't stay for the whole meeting because I know that's on the topic. I hate to make people have to wait the whole meeting, but I like the idea of having them at the end. Is it going to take that much time? more time? There might be one or two people that speak at the beginning too.
Depends on what the topic is. Could be here 2 or 3 hours and have been before.
They used to be at the end, we moved them to the beginning because the people didn't want to stay for the whole meeting.
Please everybody know it, everywhere you go. So just put it wherever and let it stay.
The whole idea behind it is that at the work sessions, in many cases, we don't even have all the information until we get here, so we know the public doesn't. So the public would then have the opportunity to listen to us talk, all the information that goes through, and then at the end, they would be able to say their comments. We would hear them, and we would have that information from the public, and come Tuesday, we would know, we'd probably have a better idea of what our constituents wanted as we went into that meeting, and they could reiterate it again if they changed their mind, or because at that meeting, they would talk in the beginning. So that was the idea behind it.
And the special called meeting, they would be at the end, anytime there's a special
And the
call.
work session. So we're going to add H today, put public comments in?
No, I mean, this is a discussion at this point, then we'll vote on it.
Yeah.
If it
We'll vote on it
passes,
today.
then, it'll be
I mean,
effective
nothing has
after
to
that.
be set in
what we
stone.
want
If
to
you
do.
do it and you like
Yeah,
the
we
way
can
it
do what
works.
we
Whoa,
want
whoa,
today.
two people talking at one time. One,
Yeah. Today is a work session, so we can adjust it however we want to.
except we've already approved the agenda for today.
We don't approve it.
Well, this is about.
As of today.
We're discussing this, we're not going to vote on it, but any other suggestions or comments on the suggestion that Jody come up with, not Gil?
Still gonna be the same requirements. 3 minutes.
Yes, and we won't respond to the comments.
I'm okay, because, you know what, if it didn't work out well, you don't have to keep it that way, and if it works real well, you stick with it, so
Any other
try
comments?
something different.
All right, moving on, comprehensive, before I do that, I have been remiss. Bobby Elliott, would you please stand? We have a new employee, and Bobby started working with us on October the 30th, the day before Halloween, easy to remember, but no trick or treat here. We're glad that you're here with us, and you are a part of a great team that we have already in place here, and those people are around in this room right now, our department heads, and you certainly add to that. And we have a daunting task ahead of us, and we feel like that you and Tom and the staff are certainly capable of making that happen. So welcome aboard, and we're looking forward to working with you. So.
Cannot believe such a staunch Bulldog supporter really complimented a University of Alabama graduate.
Well, sometimes the number one team has to acknowledge the number two team in the nation.
Here we go.
I may have to go home and change
Comprehensive land use plan update.
my shirt.
Let's move along.
Hey, it's only started.
First week after the polls. Okay, we have our first item for discussion tonight is the recommendation to award the comprehensive plan update to AMEC Foster Wheeler, who I understand many of you are familiar with. They've done a lot of work here in the city. We received 5 bids for this work. You can see the scoring from Brennan and myself. I also had a copy of these made available from Mr. Hannebeck, who had asked to take a look at them, and he similarly scored AMEC and TSW as his top 2 respondents. We budgeted $100,000. This fee estimate is just inside that. A couple of the others were in the upper 90s. One was about 150 and one was really low, like maybe 80 or so. That was the firm with the lowest score, had the least experience. We're recommending, based on just the quality of the presentation and the familiarity with the city, that we award to AMEC. They will partner with Inga and I can't think of her last name right now, but she's a Fairburn resident, somebody I know really well. She'll be doing the public comment portion of the work. Has been in the business doing that for a long time and has been very effective at that. I think we'll get a really good product out of this. So with Bobby coming this week and Lanice, who is the new planning and zoning coordinator, coming Monday, and then Michael coming to help us with the GIS, these guys coming in, we got a shot at turning this around by the end of May, which is the goal, so that we have it to DCA in draft form in June, and then we have a chance at an October approval. So that you can see the recommendation, and then there's my first cut at doing something similar to a motion at the bottom. I'm not sure exactly how you wanted to format that, but
I like that, the way you've got
I
it.
appreciate
to
it.
give you something to read.
Yep. And Tom, I would just ask for the public, on Tuesday, would you give us a somewhat brief summary on what the comprehensive master plan entails, why it's important, and how it plays into the future of the city?
Thank you. Ditto.
And we
I was gonna ask the
also
same
need to talk about how the RSVP fits into it, because you spent a good bit of time and effort on that, so I think that's relevant also.
Okay, discussion? All right.
Everybody knows these guys. They did the mill, they did the Gateway project, they've done a plan for Spring Lake, they've done a plan for the splash pad. Seems like I'm missing one. They've done a number of projects, so they have some history here, although they've never done a comp plan here.
But they have done comp plans elsewhere.
Yep. Yes, sir, everywhere, but except here, just about. And for a long time, maybe a couple of decades, maybe.
Okay, any other questions? Moving along, item number 4, professional services agreement with Michael A. Knotts to approve a professional services agreement with Michael Knotts to provide GIS services. First of all, would you tell us what GIS stands for?
All right, that's the software that we use to do mapping. It's what kind of information systems? What?
It's geographical information system.
Geographical information system. So it's a text database. Could be look sort of like Access or even Excel, but it populates a map, and it's typically done in layers so that you can show topo or roads or electric or water or sewer or all of them, with depending on the features in each layer, so in the information there. Our particular challenge is that we have the beginning of something, but it's not been maintained, and we've not had anybody own it consistently, so, and we've not done a good job of getting as-built from people as they've developed structures in the community, so we've got a lot of catching up to do to make it current. Pete has told me on a couple of occasions we've taken the GIS information that we had and gone out and dug and determined that what the GIS said and what's in the ground don't even match. So even in the case where we do have some GIS information, it's not been accurate. So we'd like to bring Michael in temporarily, part-time, see what we can get out of him, and then Bobby will have been here for a while then, Lanice will have been here for a while then, and then we'll make a decision about what we need to do after Michael.
And let me just say this is, I love the sports analogy, so y'all gonna have to bear with me just a minute, but this is like bringing in an all-star hitter when you're in the stretch drive in the playoffs. This person wasn't on our radar screen, and Tom interviewed him, and he said, this guy is sharp. I mean, he has credentials that will land him a high-paying job in his future. And this was the fit that we needed when it came along. So we're in the stretch drive of this water sewer infrastructure project, and this was certainly an opportune time to bring someone on of his caliber.
But Spirit, we don't know how long he's going to be here.
No, sir.
But every day he's here, he's one step closer to getting our GIS system up to speed.
At the minimum, I'm hoping to come out of this understanding how bad it is. So that's the first thing. Right now, I just know it's bad, but until I have somebody in there that understands it and can operate it, who can say to me and Bobby and whoever, this is what you're missing, this is what's wrong, this, whatever, we just don't know till we get in it.
Bobby's going to work closely with Michael,
I'm afraid so.
just in case Michael gets a job and disappears on us, you'll be up to speed.
Yeah, Bobby's self-description was he knows almost enough to be dangerous. So hopefully having Michael here will help Bobby get acclimated to what we actually have and what we need. Pete's been scuffling with this stuff, I don't know, a year and a half now. So I know he'll benefit from having some help also.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to item number 5, Villa Rica Public Library Advisory Board, and this is for the appointment of Ola McClendon to the Library Advisory Board, and this is Councilwoman Shirley Marchman's appointment. Any discussion?
As I understand it, I've got to appoint somebody too, because my appointment's not there anymore. So I'd like to add my appointment to this.
So you want to amend the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I no longer have an appointment on the board.
And I believe your appointment was
It's going to be
Brenda.
Huh?
Your appointment was Brenda, who
Yeah,
passed away not too long ago.
right. So I'm going to appoint Clint Chance.
So you will have that information to Elisa.
I will.
Ms. McLennan has been in the educational field for some 20-something years. She was employed with Villa Rica Elementary. She's the assistant principal at Glenn and Heinzman, and she said she would be delighted to serve on the board.
Wow, good deal.
And I know Ms. McClendon, and I'd be delighted.
McLendon.
Does she have dirt on Gil?
McLendon said
She
them.
does not have any dirt on me, but I'd be delighted to have her
I
on
better talk to her then.
board. Just leave that out. We'll get her appointed.
You said it.
Any other questions? Okay, moving right along, item number 6 is, was added by Councilman Best, right-of-way definition.
When you go through and ride and see some of these other cities around here, even all over the state and even in other states, the right-of-way that's given in each road is pretty well defined. I understand and know to be true that right-of-way in our city is a varied number, some 30 to 50 to 75 to 300 feet. I would just like for us to be able to tell anyone who walks in the door that where right-of-way actually is located and what we use, and know to be true with the city of Villa Rica. One way, and one of the guys that I used to fish with, that's deceased now, Lamar Moody, he always told me that Georgia Power would never put a power pole on private property unless it was bought by the property owner. So with that being said, most all power poles that are in a line could be considered right-of-way. They actually are put on the right-of-way on both sides of the road. And there will always be those instances that's not the case on both sides, but for most part in our city, it's true. Now, I say this because in the past 6 months, we've had signs put on the right-of-way. Now, whether we take them down or not, or ask them to be taken down, or whatever we do with them, that's going to be water over the dam, I'm afraid, but we just need to make sure that this don't happen again. Mr. Mecklem, do you have any?
You're right, that there is many roads in the city that don't have well-defined right-of-ways. We do have a city road register, which is our best source of telling us what type of right-of-way we do have. We have some roads, not many, but some roads that have deeded right-of-ways. We have a whole bunch of roads that are just assumed right-of-ways because they've just been there forever. And most of them generally could be considered from ditch to ditch. So that's our really only source of knowing what the road right-of-way is, but using the power poles is a good guide most of the time for purposes of sign ordinances.
Well, the thing that gets me is the people who live in the city that are on city water. We as a city normally do not put our meters on private property. It's always on right-of-way. And I think one of the big issues that I have found, and then talking to some of the people, if there is a 50-foot right-of-way, it is not true that it is 25 foot each side of the center line. And the reason for that is we found in North Bypass, rock, there may be a spring that they have to go around, so it's not from the center line. It is from 50 foot. It's 50 foot from side to side, and the road can go at any point in that. It may go up against the edge of that 50 foot, but still, that's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure that the people that live in the city of Villa Rica understand and know that what right-of-way really is.
And we have no map, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
We don't have a map of the right-of-ways.
I don't think so. I think there are, he said there are places that we assume there is right-of-way, but those are the kind of things that we need to really stipulate and make everybody understand this is the right-of-way. It's not assumed anymore. It's a fact.
I believe we do have a road register that has a right-of-way on it, but I don't think it's been updated in a while.
2015.
Okay.
We do have some, for example, Industrial Boulevard, we do have written plats on that because that's a DOT road and we've got the map and we know where within the right-of-way the road is. Other roads, South Carroll Road, who knows what the right-of-way is?
Well, most state highways, I think, will probably have defined right-of-ways. There's right-of-ways outside of the city hall, three cement columns that have a R/W on it right-of-way. So, those are kind of there, but the ones I'm talking about are, like you said, the ones that are on South Carroll Road, the ones that are on
Rockmart Road.
But any street that we have should have right-of-way, which means that if something happens and we have to go in and dig up sewer line is not necessarily from the house to the main line, it is right-of-way. So those are the kind of things that we have to determine before it all takes place, instead of having a knee-jerk reaction of whatever the problem is. So I just would like to see us try to do that in a period of time that allow everybody to understand.
Are you asking them to create a map of all the right-of-ways in the city?
I think the map would be useful, but I think to start with, we need to determine where the right-of-way is for each street. I don't think we have that.
If the street doesn't stay in the middle of the right-of-way, we probably need a map.
So would your request be for staff to update the road register which has right-of-way on it?
Correct.
Okay.
It sounded to me like in our earlier discussions that what you wanted was in lieu of that, or until then, for us to use the power pole rule of thumb which is what code enforcement used during this campaign season.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Further discussion?
So which is it? You want staff to come up with? So I understand an idea, a general rule of right-of-way, but there are some places where that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's right. There are
Go start
exceptions to
digging
that.
Because you assume that we decided that it would be the power poles. So I just want to be careful that I think it's a good rule of thumb, but the idea that we're just going to decide that the power poles are now the law.
They're
we're
not.
not doing that.
They're not. For example, if Georgia Power came to me and said, David Mecklin, I'm going to pay you $1 a year to put a power pole in the middle of your front yard, that suddenly doesn't make the right-of-way go all the way up into the middle of
Because
my
it's not in
front
mine.
yard.
So, Mr. Elliott, Bobby Elliott he raised his hand, so could you come up, state your name and address, and all this?
The right-of-way question, the GIS is an excellent tool to
Good
keep
point.
up with the
Good
map. And to actually show, you could go to a specific address and just measure it, it'll have it. But it's a noble task to get it all together, but GIS, that's it's
Yeah,
a
that's-
perfect tool for that.
That's where it belongs.
Thank you, Bobby. It is quite embarrassing, I'd imagine, for staff to be at City Hall and a developer come in or a potential buyer to buy property and we don't have anything showing where anything is. So this is what that does. Okay, any further discussion on that?
Well, it also, and one of the main points about right-of-way, and we're going through that right now, of the illegal signage that's out there. And I'm not really talking about the political signs. I'm talking about some of the other signs that have been allowed to be put on right-of-way in the past 6 months. That's the kind of thing, and you know, I don't normally get a lot of phone calls, but I'm catching heat over 2 of them. That's in my ward. So those are the kind of things, if we think about it a little bit more and go along with Mr. Elliott's idea on GIS, we'll be a lot better off because now we can tell anybody who walks in the door exactly where right-of-way is located. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, tab C, Finance. Sarah? While Sarah's getting ready, I just want to thank everybody. The staff has been so receptive to all our questions and, you know, answering things and providing information. And one of the best things I've seen, if y'all haven't had a chance to see it, is sort of a summary of where we are that sort of explains why we're experiencing what we are and why we have changes. And I appreciate you doing that, Tom. If y'all haven't had a chance to look at that, please do so. And we will be distributing that to our media sources and putting it on our media outlets. But just real quickly, I just want to say something about the budget. I said this earlier when I was talking about Bobby. Folks, it's time to stop kicking the can down the road. And you know, we have to face some tough decisions on this council, and we need to be a part of those tough decisions. And we need to make sure we're running this government as efficiently as we can. But inevitably, that's going to require some fee increases. And so, you know, the media sitting here and that, you know, that's just an inevitable part of trying to right this ship. And so we are making an attempt to do that, and I commend this council on your foresight in doing so, and staff on putting all this together. So.
All right, today we're going to just give a brief recap of the 2018 budget. Okay, this will work.
Oh, PowerPoint. Wait a minute, I don't see Mr. Pike. Oh, it's Miss Hefty.
We need to see what they're seeing.
Chris who?
Last two.
Chris who? Oh.
When we go to the flat screens, we need to put one like this so we can see what they're seeing. I'll have it show up in here.
Oh, it is, I can. All right.
we're updating all this.
I was going to say, part of the budget is going to be to update all this, so it works consistently.
I can just tell you when to change it. Can you use your right arrow? That's what I
That's
usually
right,
do.
we can't. We don't have that,
We
right?
don't know what they're looking at.
Okay.
Sarah, is what you're showing the audience, is it what we have in our packet, just the actual budget?
No, it's, I've kind of condensed what we looked at the other day at our work session.
We'll have our monitors up,
It's not in our
I just
packet, I
finished it
don't
this
think.
afternoon.
so we'll have our monitors on Tuesday so we can see what
Oh,
you're.
y'all don't have
Y'all let us know what you see up
I'm
there.
sorry.
Have you emailed them to us?
I can.
Is there
But
any
you know,
way
it's a
whenever she
condensed
has
version of
something
what
like
we
that,
already saw.
have it show up?
I mean, I looked at that 5 times,
I
so
pulled the slides.
So we can go
I
through
can
it?
almost visualize leaking buckets, so we're okay.
Yes.
Okay, for future use, maybe when you have a presentation, if we have it, access to it on our Surface, we'd like to be able to go to it and go along with you.
It just got done, that's why I think it just didn't,
Well, I know,
everybody
but for
went
future use.
fast.
Now,
Oh.
I can plug up the monitors, it takes just a minute.
That's all right.
Let's go.
We've been
Well-
through it.
Let's go.
We'll
right.
fix this in the future.
Go ahead.
All
Sarah.
right.
We trust you, we trust you, Sarah.
Next slide is just where are we going? This is what we talked about in our work session, our workshop last week, 2 weeks ago. And you can't even see the whole thing. Up there at the top corner, no, click it again. That's what it is. We are moving towards financial health by 2020. So in preparing this budget, 2018 budget is our first step in financial health by 2020. So that gives us 3 budget years that we'll be making some more significant changes so that we can look towards financial health by 2020. All right, next slide. Okay, this is our 5 buckets. So putting it in a water perspective, I guess. These are our major funds in the city. First one being the general fund. As you can see in that picture, it's not leaking. This fund is, we consider healthy. Oh, go back. Our water fund is leaking. However, it's not leaking as substantially as some of the other funds. So I just put a small leak on that one. That one we feel like we can fix rather, I don't want to say easy, but that one's more attainable, I guess. The sewer fund, that's where our major leak is happening. As you can see, I'm portraying it as just pouring out. Right now, it's unhealthy, and those are large dollar amounts. This is where we have our $34 million bond, and this is where our rates need the more significant increases. And this one, like I said, we're talking larger dollar amounts. Sanitation is leaking as well, so we're losing money on that one, but it's not as much. It's like the water. We feel like we can rectify that one pretty quickly. Solid waste, it is as unhealthy as the sewer fund, but I didn't show it pouring out because we're talking smaller dollars here, but that one needs some significant changes. All right, moving on to the next slide. So next, I'm just going to talk about some of the major changes that we've incorporated in the 2018 budget, and we'll talk numbers in a minute. Okay, first, as we've talked about, this 2018 budget is a 9-month budget. So we've asked the council to change the fiscal year from January 1 to December 31 to October 1 to September 30th. We feel like we can budget better because our budget will be on the same timeline as our property taxes. We'll be doing it at the same time. So as we're preparing the budget, we'll have the tax property digest, and we'll know what millage rate the council has adopted. So we'll know what our property tax revenue is going into the budget. Also projecting, as we've talked about several times, currently, I'm still waiting on the majority of our general fund revenue to come in 2017. So as far as projecting where we are, it's getting closer and closer to year end where I can't, it's harder for me to say in the summer, we've had a good year, we can get these projects accomplished, or we need to pull back. With this new budget change, we'll be getting the majority of our general fund revenue in the first half of the year, so we'll be able to make some mid-year adjustments if need be. So with that, this 9-month budget, again, taking out that third quarter or fourth quarter, those 3 months, we're losing part of our general fund revenue. So this budget has almost $1 million, about as close as you can be to a $1 million deficit. It's $999,362. Go on to the next slide. So with that, we've talked about what is our required fund balance for the general fund. Our policy states that it has to be 40% of our budgeted expenses. So these are the same numbers that y'all saw in our workshop. But in 2017, you can see our budgeted expenses are $11.9 million. 40% of that is $4.7 million. So when we compare that to what our unrestricted fund balance is, you can see we have about $450,000 more in our fund balance than what is required at that 40% level. So with that, since we have $455,000 more in our fund balance than what's required, when we take that hit of almost $1 million, we don't think it's going to take us the full 3 years to reestablish that. We're hoping within 1 to 2 years we can reestablish that 40% threshold. Okay, next slide. I just want to point out that our hope is within this 3-year period of getting to our financial health that we can maintain the millage rate. Same slide I showed you all the other day. 2017, our millage rate was 6.365. That's our lowest millage rate in over 10 years. And we hope that we can just maintain that. Go on. Okay, talking about general fund subsidies. So part of the problem has been why we haven't been able to see maybe how bad off the water, sewer, and solid waste sanitation funds have been is because we've subsidized them through general fund tax revenues and our SPLOST funds. So in this 2018 budget, we've taken out all the subsidy to the water sewer funds. So the general fund's not paying for part of the bond payment in this budget. The only transfer between those is a $75,000 transfer from general fund to sanitation solid waste. I need to get a drink. However, both funds still, operating cash is still really low, so they'll be borrowing cash from general fund. There just won't be the big transfers that we've historically had. I just made a note there on the bottom. To pay the full bond payment from the general fund is equivalent to 3.5 mils. So in essence, you'd have to raise your millage rate 3.5 mils in order to cover that bond payment of $1.7 million. Okay, going on. All right, now talking about water and sewer rate increases. The firm that we contracted with, Raftellus, has given us some preliminary figures, and it looks like for water we're going to need over a 20%, I want to say, revenue increase and 75% sewer increase. So again, we're looking at a 3-year period, so we're going to spread that over 3 years. So we're increasing the water revenue by an average of about 7% and the sewer revenue by an average of about 35%. This does look different on each user because our base fees are staying the same. So someone who's using less water is not going to feel the impact that a higher user is going to feel.
Can I stop you right there? Councilman Best makes this point all the time, and is well taken. 35% sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But we're not talking about 35% of $300, and were we talking about maybe providing some, that'll be part of your explanation? I can't see it, so maybe that's up there. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
All right.
Okay, if you go on to the next slide, we'll see some actual examples. Here, this is the average. So for a customer that uses an average 4,500 gallons per month, this is what their water sewer portion of their bill would look like. So their current water sewer portion of their bill a month is $62.51. Once these rate increases are put in place, the new bill for just the water sewer portion would be $71.68. So that's a $9.17 increase per month for, again, an average residential customer who uses 4,500 gallons of water per month. I'm going to the next one. I wanted to compare to see what some of the people in the other areas pay. These are other cities in Georgia that have a similar population to us. So Powder Springs, Fairburn, Mountain Park, Monroe, and Winder. Again, so our new water sewer bill would be $71.68. You can see that Powder Springs, with the equivalent number of gallons, their bill is $68.84. Fairburn is $80.85. Mountain Park $72.43. Monroe $60.60, and Winder $74.53. So it's kind of in the ballpark of where we'll be. Next is, go back one more. Okay, these are the ones that are directly around us. So again, the Villa Rica water sewer bill will be $71.68, and I've pulled the ones around us. So Paulding County, for the same amount of gallons, their customers pay $71.44. Carroll County pays $61.98. Douglas County $65.65. Noonan $66.11, and Heard County $72.90. And then my last one shows Atlanta. At least we don't live in Atlanta. For the same amount of gallons, they pay $107.37. compared to what ours will be $71.68. All right, going on. This is talking about the water and sewer senior discount. So what's been shown in this budget is a senior discount available to low-income seniors. This is 65 years and older, a maximum household income of $24,120. And I looked into this. This is the number that Georgia Power uses. Atlanta uses a flat $25,000. Douglas County uses a similar number to this, and it's actually based on the poverty level, excuse me. So that's, the poverty level is 12,060, so they've basically doubled it. I guess that's expecting 2 people in a household. So that's why they have the $24,120. And then they must be the primary title holder or leaseholder. So if a parent is living with their children, we wouldn't give the discount because we would want we would take the primary title holder or the leaseholder on the property. And with that, this base is staying the same. So the residential base is staying the same at $12 for water and sewer, and this would be a $5 base for water and sewer for these low-income seniors. And if you go on to the next slide, you'll see some examples. So this is based on 3,000 gallons per month because that's our average usage for the senior customers that we have right now. We have about 670 of them. You see here there's two comparisons. There's what will be the non-discounted seniors and then the new discounted seniors, which will be low income only. So going from their current bill, they both have the same current bill of $35.22. This is again for 3,000 gallons. The non-discounted senior would be paying what the other residents are paying, the other residential customers. So that would be $55.30. And then the discounted low-income seniors would be paying $41.30. So they would see a $6.08 increase per month. Okay, going on. Water and sewer capital. So we've spoken about this a couple times. This would be GFA. Pete has come up with over 40 crucial projects that need to be addressed with water and sewer. Right now, we don't have the cash for that. Like I said, the water sewer fund is borrowing cash from the general fund. And since we're taking the increases over 3 years for the rates, we don't have the cash in this first year, but there are crucial projects that need to be addressed. And they will benefit us in the long run. They'll benefit us in the short term, let me say that. Some of them will be stopping expenses from happening, if we're losing water or if we have leaks in certain areas, or some of them will actually be able to produce revenue for us once we get certain meters calibrated and that sort of thing. So there are things that need to be done now. In order to do that, though, we need cash. So what we're proposing is to borrow GFA money, which would be low interest loan. We initially were throwing out a round number of $10 million. What we have discovered is the max you can do per year is $5 million, but that's been included in this budget. Okay.
Can I stop you right there, just for the benefit of the public? GFA is an acronym, Georgia Environmental Finance Authority. But just to kind of, and I want this to be understood, and I think we're doing a good job with this letter that you drafted, but what we've done with this GFA fund, if it's approved, is we've bridged the gap between the time that we're solvent with our general fund so that we can finance these projects that way, like they always should have been. But this GFA fund gets us from point A to point C. There needs to be a point B. So, I want that to be understood. We need to be we need to educate each other and the public is why we're even doing this, why we're talking about a GFA fund in the middle of going up on rates. But there's just no way that we can right the ship quick enough to get us from point A to point C. So that's what this is. So.
Yes, exactly. Okay, next is sanitation and solid waste rates. We've done, a lot of times those words get jumbled around. So sanitation is what we're calling waste industries garbage pickup, and solid waste is what the city route that's run every week to pick up yard waste, other bulk items. So when we looked at the two of those, neither one were paying the way. Sanitation is closer, but solid waste, that needs a significant increase, but again, we're going to spread it over 3 years. So the first one is increasing sanitation fee from $12 to $12.50. Again, that's our waste industries piece. And then next is increasing solid waste pickup from $5 to $7.50 per month. That doesn't get us where we need to be, but again, it's a step in the right direction. Go on to the next slide. So this shows now the overall bill, going back to that average customer. who uses 4,500 gallons of water per month, this is what their complete bill would be with water, sewer, sanitation, and solid waste. So currently, it would calculate to be $79.51, and with these changes, it'll be $91.68. So that is a $12.17 increase per month.
One thing that you may want to make sure everybody understands is that the reason we're having to go up on sanitation is not necessarily we're behind, is the fact that Waste Industries goes up every year on their gasoline charge as, CIP or whatever it's called. And we've not done that now in the last 3 years. So, the people, I think that's in the city of Villa Rica need to understand that we've taken the hit as a city, and we've paid those expenses that have gone up, but not charged them back to the people.
Yes, okay, sanitation senior discount. So again, having the senior discount available to the low-income seniors, so that 65 years and older, again, maximum household income of $24,120 or less, primary title holder or leaseholder, and then this would be a 25% discount on sanitation, which is again the $12.50 Waste Industries piece.
Is that gonna be on the ballot about that increase with the senior citizen thing?
The ballot?
Is
No.
that gonna be on the voting ballot? Somebody asked me and I told them I didn't know.
No, just the property tax senior exemption. All right,
Okay.
next. So this again shows that same comparison for the seniors. The average senior customer right now uses 3,000 gallons per month. So on the top, these will be the non-low-income seniors who will be now paying the residential rate. So their bill would go from $48.22 to $75.30. And then the low-income senior down on the bottom, they would go from $48.22 to $58.18. This is a $9.96 increase per month. Okay. And lastly, with the sanitation service, we've included in the budget to make sanitation service mandatory for all water customers inside city limits. So right now we have about 370 customers who just pay solid waste pickup only. And as I mentioned the other day, we're in the middle of an audit trying to make sure that those are actually correct. Because we're starting to see that Waste Industries is picking up trash, so they're charging the city for picking up trash, but we're not collecting that revenue from some customers, so we'll get that straightened out. Next. I'll pause.
While you're pausing, I'll just mention that sometimes that's where the garbage pickup gets abused, because you really could just throw your garbage in your neighbor's because it's not required for everybody in the city. I've lived in 4 cities. This is the only one I've ever lived in where everybody in the city didn't get it. And so Waste Management gets confused about who's supposed to get picked up and who's not. And I've seen some old containers out there that you wonder if people are even paying the fee. So I don't know that I can say it for sure, but it would not surprise me at all if there's not quite a bit of fraudulent activity occurring in that area.
I just included a couple frequently asked questions. So number one, what if we spread the rate changes over more years? So again, the preliminary estimates are that we need to raise water 20% and sewer 75%. If we did delay it, one thing I haven't said yet is in 2020, the bond payment increases by $460,000. So if we aren't making these steady changes for the next 3 years, we won't be ready for that bond payment in 2020. So that's one item we're working towards. If we do the GFA loan so that we can make these critical changes and we don't raise the rates, we will not have the funds to be able to repay our GFA loan. And if we don't make these changes, we will continue to drain the cash and the reserves of the funds, especially the general fund.
How much is the payment on the GFA loan going to be?
I've calculated it.
Roughly, no.
Tom, do you remember?
We haven't talked to them to see what the term is.
Yeah.
But if you do 5 million a couple of times and do a 20-year term, then it would be, $500,000 plus interest.
Every year, yeah.
So that's about what a meal is worth.
Right.
So your meal's worth maybe 560,000.
A mil, yeah. All right, next one. Number 2, what do we risk if we don't improve our financial health? Again, we'll continue to drain the cash and the reserves of the funds, especially the general fund. Our general fund's healthy, if you think back to the buckets, but if we continue to drain it, we will have a problem with the general fund as well. Next, we'll have to make reductions in several areas. Personnel, that could be the number of employees, the salaries, the benefits that we provide for our employees. Public safety, we will not be able to grow police department as the city grows. Recreation, we may have to cut out some of the wants. Infrastructure, lack of maintenance and improvements for roads, water, sewer, and stormwater. That's kind of where we are right now. So we want to improve that and not continue to add to that. And lastly, bond rating will decline, which will mean higher interest rates for us in the future. Okay, that's it on those. Go on to the next. So here, I was just going to present a few slides with the numbers that are in this book, which is available either for, you can view it at Elisa's desk in City Hall, or it's online. Okay, go on. So I know it was a lot to put on one slide, but this is kind of the summary. This and the next slide are our summary numbers, I guess, for the actual budget. I just want to point out that general fund, you can see the total revenues that we're budgeting is $8.6 million, and the uses is also the expenditures. That's $8.6 million as well. The last item line in the revenue, that's where you'll see. We'll go back one. That's where. Okay, go back another one. That's where you'll see the use of fund balance. That's the $1 million deficit that we're talking about. We have hotel motel tax. We're estimating $172,000, and then our cemetery fund. We do expect some revenues, but also some expenditures as well. And then the last column is our debt. Again, our debt payment is $1.7 million. So you can see transfers in to pay for that, and then the actual debt service payment on the bottom. All right, go on to the next slide. This is the other half of that sheet. So these, you can see, are SPLOST. Those first few columns are our capital funds, and that's SPLOST. And then the last two are enterprise funds. So our water and sewer fund revenue for the year is $5.6 million, but our expenditure is $6.3 million, so we will be having a loss in that short period. Again, we're not raising the rates the full way, so we would expect that. However, our depreciation is actually more than that, so this loss will actually be attributable to depreciation, which is not a cash expenditure. Sanitation and solid waste fund, our revenue we're expecting is $955,000, and our expenditures are just over $1 million there. So you can see we have a projected loss of $58,000 on the sanitation and solid waste. Again, with taking our time with the rate increases, we're going to have a loss. And that is less than depreciation on that fund as well. So it's not a cash loss, but it will be for our financials. So total revenue for the city is almost $20 million. Total expense is just over $20 million, with a net loss of $789,000. That's attributable to the enterprise funds. Okay, next slide. Maybe. Again, this is just our citywide revenues are just shy of $20 million. It's that sixth column for the 9 months. I won't go any. I did have a question of, if you look at the column that shows the 75% of the 2017 budget, and then you look at the next column which shows our year-to-date 9 months, we're not showing enough money there. How does that work out? I'll go back to every time I get up here and present, I'm always telling you that we're bringing money back into the prior fiscal year. So even though we've finished up 9 months is what I'm showing here, there's still October and November revenue that I'm going to bring back into that fiscal year. Okay, next slide. Citywide expenditures. Again, this is just a recap. The sixth column shows our total expenditures for this budgeted year, $20.5 million. That's a 2% increase from 2017. Next slide. I'm going through these fast because it's probably easier to look at it when you look at the detail. I think we went back. Go forward to. No, go forward to. Okay. This is just in total our capital. We are expecting $8.1 million of capital expenditures in that short year, but you can see $5 million of it is the GFA loan. Everything else is SPLOST except LMAG. We have some in the water sewer budget. There's no general fund SPLOST or capital expenditures, excuse me. Okay, going on. General fund personnel, this is the personnel we've either upgraded or added to this short budget. It's going to cost $177,000. And some of them have been delayed to later on in the year to save us some funds there. And I just made a note that total general fund personnel budget is $5.1 million. There are assets, so it does cost us, one of our largest line items is personnel. Okay, going on to our last, I think, water and sewer personnel. We've added 2 to the water sewer fund. These are in our distribution and collection department because we didn't get the CDBG grant. We're adding two employees to be able to do that in-house. That work still needs to be done, so. All right, I think that was it. Any questions? It was a lot, but again, this is available online.
Back 27 minutes ago, you stated, no, that was great.
I'm using my calculator right now. I can't do this in my head anymore. Okay, you said that the personnel budget for the entire city, that's part-time and 12 months full-time and 12-month part-time, correct? Does that include, that doesn't include contract laborers, coaches, referees, that was taken out?
Right.
Okay. So our total personnel budget is $5.1 million.
For that 9-month period.
So if all the employees were to receive 2% raises, merit increases, then that would be $102,000. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to say it until we pass the budget, and this is one person's opinion, but we need to take care of the employees that we've got now out there based on their merit, and I am certainly thinking that we can come up with $102,000 out of this budget that we can do that with. And the other point along those same lines is that, I'm all for adding folks that are going to actually solve the problems that we have, that we've identified. Not so sure that we need to take on as many employees as we've all talked about this year, with the thought that that we're asking our citizens to come up with more money out of their pockets. This, I think the budget, when I looked at it, I think it's 2%? Is it 2% higher this year than it was in 2017?
The expenditures, yes.
Okay. That's an increase. 2% of, back to the coach's point here, 2% of 20-something million dollars is a lot of money. And so I just, that's my opinion, but I think that those two things need to be considered. We need to look at raising our budget for 2018, given the fact that we're asking the public to come up with more money out of their pockets, which I think is entirely appropriate in the situation, but at the same time, I don't think we need to balance the budget on the backs of the employees that we have. So. Next.
Barbershop.
Okay.
Next.
All right. Now I need to switch on to 2017. Need to talk about the 2017 budget. I have a few budget amendments that we need to do. I'll wait until we get it back.
They're looking at the amendments.
Yes.
This is good news. Hurry up.
You want me to go on? Anyway. Okay, I'll move on. All right, so first, yes, the first one is good news. Our building permit revenues are much higher than we projected. A portion of those fees, a portion of that money will go back to Carroll County for the inspections, which is why we've asked to add the building inspector. So basically, I'm asking to raise the revenue budget by $180,000 and the expenditure portion for paying Carroll County by 80,000. And then, as part of that, since it's kind of the same department, I went ahead and did this. With our 2017 budget, we budgeted to use $100,000 of fund balance for our comp plan. That we will no longer need to take it from fund balance because we did have this extra revenue. So I'm asking to reduce that line item for the use of fund balance. And then our second item is attorney fees are higher than expected. So I'm asking to increase this line item, but also we have more prior year property tax revenue than was budgeted. So this is people paying on old bills that they hadn't paid. We've received more money than was budgeted, so I was going to offset it with that. So that's $25,000.
As I understand it, 100,000 goes back to fund balance?
Correct. We will no longer need
Well,
to.
it won't come out.
We won't have
Won't
to
come
save that.
out.
Yes.
That's going back.
Increase
That was it.
attorney fees.
Any questions on that?
Those
Okay.
are easy.
All right. Time to discuss the September financial update. So this is 9 months away through the year, which is 75%. General fund, our total cash, operating cash is at 3.6, almost $3.7 million. This is through September, so in October and November, it's starting to fill back up because we're getting our property tax money in. Revenues, major revenues for our sales tax, we are 2% higher than last year. We've gotten almost $1.6 million so far this year. Property tax, we are starting to see that money come in again. At the end of September, we'd only gotten $162,000, but I know we've gotten more than that since then. Occupational tax, this is money we got early on in this year, but we're 14% higher than last year. Permits and inspections, which is what we were just talking about. You can see our budget there was $97,000, and so far we've gotten $306,000. So overall, that fund in general, our revenue is 14% higher than last year, and our expense is only 0.4 higher than last year. So we're trending pretty well so far this year. Again, going back to that bucket, our general fund's healthy. Water sewer fund, our operating cash is actually positive. It's $188,000. I'll skip on down to the major revenues for water. Water and sewer both are slightly less than last year, but the weather this year was totally different than last year.
The drought.
Last year we had the drought, and this year we had a really rainy year. So, tap fees, we've received $418,000 so far in tap fees this year, which is much higher than our budget. Revenue and expense in total for that budget, our revenue overall is 3% higher, and our expenditure is 15% higher than last year, but we are still less than that 75% expectation of where you think we'd see us after 9 months. Solid waste, our cash is negative in that fund, negative $365,000. Not in the bank, but it's borrowing from the general fund, basically. Revenue is down slightly, just 0.1%. And overall, our revenue is down 1%, and our expense is up. But again, Waste Industries did the CPIU update of 3.4%. That was in June, so that's putting us over budget.
Sarah, I know that we factored it in, I just haven't seen it, the increase that Douglas County is going to pass on to us in 2018?
For the landfill?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's a significant increase. What was that number? Percentage?
Did it double?
It was almost
From
double.
33 to 60. Not quite a 100% increase.
Almost 100% increase in our, I don't want to call them tipping fees, that's not what they are, but
What does that amount to in money-wise?
I think I budgeted $80,000 for the 9 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say it went from 40 to 80.
Okay.
In general conversation, somebody saw this and called me on the phone and said, I want you to explain to me how the city of Villa Rica has lost $2,437,000. And I said, I don't have any idea what you're referring to. Well, on the budget, on the stuff that's passed out, and you see it up there under revenue status, the lost fund.
Oh,
Local option sales tax.
Local option sales tax, lost.
We need to create a found fund.
May need to change how that's worded.
That's fun.
Okay. All right. Moving on. All right. This is a request for year-end compensation for our staff. Total cost at this point, estimating for 144 employees, would be $75,425. This does include grossing it up for tax. I know that was a discussion last year, but this is grossing it up for taxes. That way the employees can get the gross amount. In 2016, we gave $500 to full-time employees who'd been here over a year, and $250 to part-time employees and other employees who had been here less than a year but more than 6 months. For 2017, we've broken it down a little bit more, and we're looking at this from a 12/31 standpoint. So even though I'm presenting this to you in November, we're kind of considering that we're looking at where they will be at 12/31. So employees that have been here a year or more would get $500. If they've been here since Q1, so January through March of 2017, they would get 3/4 of that, $375. If they've been here since April through June of this year, they would get $250. And if they've been here since July through September, they would get $125. Part-time, same stipulations, but it's exactly the half of the same dollar amount. Talking about where this would come from. Just a few days ago, we got the insurance premium tax that we get it once a year. It's just a lump amount, and it hits our bank account. We received $933,000. We only budgeted $845,000, so that was $88,000 we were not expecting. Part of that will go back to Douglas County because that does pay for part of our shared services with them, but that is a place that we could take some of that money from.
How much did we use in 2016 for this?
I do not have that with me. Sorry, I can get that for you.
Sarah, when you said part-time, this is permanent part-time employees only, not part-time that may just work 28 hours a week and work seasonal. These are 12-month employees that work part-time.
Correct.
Okay. Sarah, as usual, you've done a tremendous job. Thank you for all your hard work, and that everybody else that had something to do with it. I know there were many. So, council, questions?
Well, this is the first time we've seen this, so I want to take a little bit of time to digest this. Might not do it right here. I'll have some questions about this.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Public Works, Pete? And/or Charlie?
My numbers are a lot smaller anyway. I have 2 emergency purchases that have happened in the last month or so. The first one was main influent pump, which brings the waste into the new treatment plant. Had a pump catastrophic failure. The housing was cracked beyond repair. Due to design of the plant, there was, of course, was a custom-built pump and a sole source, and that is being constructed now. We're still probably 6 weeks away from receiving it. But we have one other pump running, and if that one fails, we're in bad shape. We did have one that failed last year that we rebuilt, and we can put that in fairly quickly in emergency, but the plant was originally designed to have 4 pumps in it. At some point towards the end of that design, it got cut to 2. And so these pumps are supposed to run 2 at a time, switching back and forth, and you have 2 sets for backup. That's not the case, so this is why it was critical. And we only had one source to do this with, like I said, it was custom built through this company, and it's the only thing that fits without modifying the entire structure.
So that was one of the value cuts that was made at the end of the project.
Value engineering.
Value engineering.
And the same thing was done on the 4 pumps that were supposed to be the influent pumps going out of the plant. There were supposed to be 4 there. We still just have 2 there also. So someday when things are looking brighter, we'll look at remedy that. But not only are the pumps not there, the control equipment to run them are not there either. So it's a major expense to add them. But we have this pump on order, and we are monitoring it daily to make sure that it's going well. And we're looking at about 6 more weeks for it to be completed. It's a 14 to 16 week build time, so this has been ordered for a while. Other item I have.
Can I stop? Just, I'm sorry. And I really appreciate when I read over these that you give all those details to help us understand what the issues, but I did have just 1 or 2 questions. The idea that it's custom built and there's only one source we can use for it, does that have to do with when the whole thing was built? It was built this way, so it really makes it hard for us to ever get out of this. We have to get a custom one, and we can only get it from this source.
It is. I mean, we could have it custom built, but it would cost more. Vaughn is the company that built this particular pump. It was spec'd in the design of the plant. But what this pump is it's kind of hard to visualize without seeing it. This thing's 10 feet tall. It's about 3 foot in diameter, and it drops down into a well that's underground. And it takes a 20-ton crane to put this in. It's a big ordeal to change it. It's not something that happens quickly. But the influent structure of the plant is in a pit that's underground. It's half the size of this room, and that's where these pumps are at. So it's a very expensive part of the plant, but that is the sole source without completely redoing the structure that holds these pumps.
So everything that was getting maybe so expensive that really important things started getting cut.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we have that one going, and then we had a lift station failure of a pump at Brandywine subdivision. We were able to obtain 3 bids on that because it was a common pump. The lowest price is the one that we purchased. It was $11,281.80. The old pump was not repairable. It shattered, and that was repaired in a matter of a few days to get that lift station back operational. So I have those 2 emergency purchases, and any questions on those? Okay.
Gotta have them.
And then for your consideration, we have a budgeted capital item this year of putting a backup generator at the Edge Road lift station. We waited towards the end of the year to make sure we didn't have any other $52,000 pumps go out, but we've still got money in our line item for that. We've obtained 3 bids on it. The low bid was $42,254 from Triple B Electric. This company also maintains most of our current generators, and we have a good relationship with them. Price for that does include turnkey installation with sound deadening enclosures and the auto transfer switch and everything to take care of it.
Charlie, you have it in your notes, and I appreciate that. But we have 3 lift stations that do not have generators backups on them. This addresses
there
one
are
of the 3.
3, but only 2 of them are what I would call permanent. We have talked with the plant manager today. I don't have all the specifics, but one of the lift stations we have is very small, and it's a temporary lift station. We're in the process of deciding with this growth if that one will have to be turned into a bigger lift station. But yeah, we have one other one I know that it wouldn't take a generator this size that would be, but it would be probably in the $35,000 range for the other lift station that I know needs one. But we're getting close to the end of this program. This has been going on for a lot of years, so we're nearing the end of it. Probably won't budget anything in this 8-year budget for the generators, but after that, yeah, I'd like to wrap it up following that if we can find the funds for it. It'd be nice to have all of them to where if we were at an extended power outage, we could handle this. The biggest thing with this Edge Road lift station too is that 2 other lift stations do feed into it, so it has a pretty high flow. If it was to go down for an extended period of time, it wouldn't just back up at that station, it would eventually back up at 2 other ones. So we do have a pretty good opportunity for a spill risk there.
questions? Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council. Item 3 and 4 are work authorization requests. The first one would be trying to get approval for this work authorization for Curtis Environmental Resource to help us prepare requests for proposals and potential task orders on the projects that will be identified if we get this GFA money going forward to correct water and sewer upgrades in infrastructure. Curtis is semi-retired, but he's very knowledgeable and experienced. He's retired from EPD. He's very well versed with the folks over at GFA, and I would like to recommend that we get approval to utilize him.
Okay, just for the public and for the council that may not know, there is an art to writing RFPs, and if you've written them, and I know a lot of you have, and Pete, I'm sure you've written your share, it's one of those things you just can't do for a couple of hours and then lay down and go do everything else you're supposed to do during the day and then pick it up the next morning. If you do that, you end up, we had one proposal that was submitted for our comprehensive plan that had another city's, most of those are cut and paste, and one of them had another city listed, and they were doing our comp plan. And that's what happens when you don't have full-time access to an RFP. And so what we're asking for here is this is just part of the process again, is this person's going to help us write the RFPs. We'll review them, council will look at them, but this person, that's what they'll be doing, is writing RFPs for all these things that we're talking about doing. And there's 20 or more projects we're talking about. So
Did you define the RFPs?
RFP is a request for proposals, which is different than an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. So.
And I'd like to add too that when I first came on board last year, we had a annual report that was way past due with the state, and Curtis was very instrumental. We used him. He shepherded that through the process and kind of kept us from getting any kind of consent order or anything along that line. So he did an excellent job with the staff, with Jimmy in distribution and his staff over there.
And this request is for up to $5,000.
Yes.
How would that be determined?
Just as we go from one project to the next as he writes these proposals.
But by the project or by the hour or?
Well, yes, in the packet, I believe you've got his hourly rate.
There wasn't, it's all broken down. Most of it's over my head, but I know you guys understand it. You know.
His is simple. His is a straight $100 an hour.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I must be thinking about the other one. The other one that had numerous, depending on who's working on it, which engineer, and
Right.
Any more questions? Moving right along.
Okay, and then item 4 is another request for work authorization for Infratech Consultants Incorporated, Turnip Seed Engineers, and Smart Water Analytics, all 3 engineering firms, that we'd like to enter into a working relationship with them to help do engineering for these water and sewer and infrastructure upgrades. And we're currently using Smart Water Analytics. LEO has been heavily involved with the pressure study where we got the grant through GFA earlier in the year, and hopefully that will be concluded here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get some results from that.
All right, I'm going to make the obvious observation or ask the obvious question, and that is we just hired a new engineer, and now we're paying an engineer up to $3,000. So we're doing that because?
Okay, we're doing that because if you look at the pricing on the various companies on their list of the various individuals, that's a team of folks that are doing certain things at different rates. everything that we're gonna do going forward also has got to be submitted to EPD and go through that process. And there's gonna be a lot involved with this. I think with a lot of the responsibility that Bobby's gonna have in community development, he's gonna have a ton on his plate to do. I'm sure he'll be plugged in and involved and be, abreast of what these projects are, but for him to actually have the time or the staff to do these would be asking too much of him, I think.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Yes. With all these things, these three companies or whatever, the usage of the city employees, is that going to be included?
What they would be doing is, there may be some projects that we don't tackle in-house, and then there will be some others that we do. And we'll just have to come up and determine that as we go forward on what the project is.
I'm just thinking that, to use my old phrase, that we're losing 300,000 gallons of water a day. I'd like to find that and let these folks use people they hire rather than taking our people off of finding water leaks and things of that nature. I mean,
One thing that we, in the budget, the request for the 2 additional people were to try to help Jimmy and his department build a second crew where they can do some line installations while the other crew is taking care of leaks. Right now, they're constantly inundated with doing these leaks or running down complaint calls and that sort of thing. So it's really hard for them to get any traction over here to take care of some of the infrastructure. Now, some of the infrastructure stuff may be too significant, too big for them to tackle. And then some of these projects also, where we're calling upon these folks, is going to be talking about looking at the east-west transfer station and things like that, these additional lift stations, the north plant, what might be needed there. That's outside the scope of what our in-house folks can do.
I just keep hearing your words when we were in the budget meeting at the library that day where you said we've had this shotgun approach. And I'm guessing that's because we're racing over here to take care of this problem, and then grab this, and we didn't have the staff and the people and the help to really address our issues and move forward at the same time.
Right.
And find the leaks, aside from repairing everything. Is this going to give you what you need in this department?
Today, I would say yes. It's a starting point. And my vision is I see all of these different components all converging on the same thing. Okay, so it's going to be a collective effort with everybody that we employ, both our staff, other folks that assist us with that. It's just got to be a collective mindset and a team effort to do this and to do it right.
That was an excellent answer.
If you don't do it right. No point in doing it and then have to come back later on and do it all over again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Okay, tab E, public comment.
Mr. Mayor, can I raise one issue before you move into public comments? I don't know, Elisa or Tom, if y'all got this, but we had another item to come in this afternoon, right as I was leaving to come up here, and Ms. Donna Lackey is here to make a presentation, and it's with regard to potential project for the Sugar Foods Corporation here. So I have brought some agreements that I'm going to pass out for you to be looking at before next Tuesday, and I think we ought to call Donna up just to give us a presentation on what's going on that.
Hey, Donna.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be able to come before you, and I greet you on behalf of Carol tomorrow, but also as the appointed secretary of the Villa Rica Development Authority, and wanted to make you aware that Sugar Foods has approached the Villa Rica Development Authority to do another expansion. As y'all all know, this is their third expansion since they've been in Villa Rica. Expansions are always good, and I want to put it on the record that 80% of all the industrial growth that we have going on in Carroll County right now are existing industry expansions. Not to say that we don't have a lot of new project activity, but it's exciting when an existing employer can continue to add jobs. This particular project, as you will see in the memorandum of understanding, proposes 35 new jobs within the first 3 years, 50 jobs total within 7 years, and that is a very low estimate on their part. They wanted to shoot low, shoot low, but reach high, and hopefully it'll be more than that. Also, the first 3 years will be a $35 million investment, with $50 million within 7 years. So it is a very healthy addition to the economy. We have in the memorandum of understanding a tax abatement process that is very, very conservative. We have based this, Carol Tamara has done the analysis using Georgia Power's M-Plan analysis, and we have based this on the number of quality jobs, and in the state of Georgia, quality jobs are any jobs that are high skilled and pay more than $14.50 in the Carroll County. And so that's what we're looking at. We're also looking at their amount of investment, and we only do those types of abatements and incentives when we feel that that investment warrants it. So I would appreciate your consideration. The Villa Rica Development Authority did unanimously approve the memorandum of understanding on October 12th, and we just appreciate your support. And I'll be happy to answer any questions, and if I can't, Mr. Mecklin can.
Yeah, y'all haven't seen it, so you obviously can't have any questions yet. But I'll pass it out to you, and what you're going to be asked to do is to approve the tax incentive plan for it, and not only will the City of Villa Rica, but it will also go before the Carroll County Board of Commissioners and the Carroll County Board of Tax Assessors, and it provides for a graduated phasing in of the full tax on the new investment.
Right. And I will be here Tuesday night to answer any questions that you may.
You know, let me elaborate on something, because this is a question that one of the constituents asked me. When we look at things like this, and we talk about tax abatements and things like that, the question was asked, do y'all just arbitrarily just cut the taxes, or is there some plan or program or process used to determine whether that's a quality development or a quality move? And you answered that question, but I just want to reiterate it. The answer to that is yes. We just don't do a tax abatement just to be giving tax abatements out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would add in that there's a lot of negotiation, arguing that goes in over it. The people asking for those incentives always ask for the moon.
And they don't get it. This has been a year and a half in the making, as Mr. Carter can attest, so this isn't something we do very lightly at all.
And we don't give it out to everybody.
That's right.
And thank you for all y'all do. You know, Villa Rica has a lot of problems. We have a lot of issues and opportunities in front of us. But the thing I think that separates us from a lot of other cities is that we do have that industrial commercial base that's helping to offset the cost of the infrastructure that we're having to pay for. So for your part in that, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, now, public comment. Anyone wishing to give public comment, please come forward, do so at this time. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Mayor and Council, Michael Young, 9634 Coastal Point Drive in Mirror Lake. I've gone over the budget. It's 117 pages, so it's takes a little while. But I'm still looking for something that either puts money back into the general fund or acknowledges the fact that we're going to have unexpected expenses. Tonight, you talked about $63,000 in pumps. Expenditures for a professional service and GIS services, expenditures for environmental resource, expenditures for working relationship with Infotech. So all of those, I'm guessing, are non-budgeted, and that's just tonight. If you go back over the last year and look at things like the GSP post that we put money into that wasn't budgeted, all the other things that came up that were not budgeted, I think this budget needs to acknowledge and try to itemize some of that stuff that is going to happen. I'm not saying that unexpended budgeters are bad. They happen. And your budget, as comprehensive as it is, can't account for everything. So you need a bucket of money for the city council to control that tries to take into account that the fact that there's going to be items out there that you don't want to actually take out of your general fund, but you want to try and allocate money to ahead of time. I agree with the mayor. You need to take care of your people. The people that work here are the people that make Villa Rica the way it's supposed to be. So you need to take care of them in your end of year compensation.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
More or less, I'm Jody Mount, 214 Rockmart Road. More or less, kick the bucket down the road, or kick the can down the road.
The rusted kid.
I have, one quick thing before I get into this. I'd like to know who's responsible for keeping the right-of-way mowed and trimmed, too. So when you guys discuss that on Tuesday, if you could bring that up, too. All right, back to more for less. So the reason we have a goal of being financially healthy by 2020 is because for the last 12 years, it has been do more for less, do more for less, do more for less, which requires, as Mayor has pointed out, we have to kick the can down the road. We have GIS maps that don't correctly map anything. Why is that? Because we're doing more for less. We didn't hire professionals to do that. We use underpaid, unqualified staff. So we're paying more now, and who knows how much that has cost us? I mean, it would be hard to put a number on how much that has cost us. We have dangerously dilapidated and outdated water and sewer system, pumps that are, falling out because more for less. Let's don't do 4 pumps like we should. Let's do more for less. So that's costing us more now. It's like if you have a house and your roof's leaking, if you don't get up and fix the roof, then you get mold, you get damage, it costs you more. We have all that. And some of you all have been sitting up here a long time. Now, the reason for all of that was, I've heard for a long time, was, well, we've got seniors here that can't pay this. We've got seniors here that can't pay this. And we had an illegal senior tax exemption for years that cost lots of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars of money that could have been being spent on taking care of our infrastructure. So it's like, okay, why do we do all this stuff for seniors? And here we're looking at senior exemptions, or discounts for water and sewer. What makes seniors more deserving than veterans? What makes seniors more deserving for any other poor person in the community? What makes seniors more deserving than young families that have a child born to them that had health conditions that were totally unexpected and that cost a lot of money? Why are seniors more deserving? And another problem I have with the discounts is that anytime one group is singled out to get a discount, that means everyone else, the rest of us, has to carry that burden. And it's not fair. You guys are elected to represent all of us, not one specific group. Not one specific group. And you've done that. You've done that. And I think it's embarrassing myself. Now, in 2004, when that illegal tax exemption was passed, Ms. Marchman, you weren't on the council at that time. And, I took a play from something Jeff had said to me a couple years back. Follow the money, Jody, follow the money. So I looked to see how much you benefited from that, Mr. Carter. You have bragged about you were the one responsible for that, putting that through. Well, you personally benefited $276.52 from that property tax. Now, I don't expect us to go back and collect it from all the seniors that were exempted. I don't expect that. I do think you should have to pay it back. I think donate it to the library so we can buy some books. I think that'd be good. Now, I looked at your coach, yours too. Yours is just around $1,000. Now, you'd also have said in public meetings that you had no idea you were getting that. That's even more embarrassing.
Jody, if you could start wrapping your comments up, I'd appreciate it.
Because you are up here supposed to be keeping an eye, and if you don't even know that you're not paying an $800+ property tax every year, you're not aware of your own personal things, how can you be aware of things going on in our city? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting and go on to tab F. We'll look at our consent agenda. We don't have any, no, never mind. I almost asked another question. All right, of course, we'll have our meetings on there, minutes. The comprehensive, I guess it'll be B3 now, the comprehensive land use plan. That'll be discussed. How about the next item, professional services agreement with Michael A. Notch? Consent agenda or no?
Yes.
I'm okay with
I'd be
that.
okay with
yes.
it being consent.
Everybody okay with consent agenda? Okay. All right, we will have the 2 appointments to the Villa Rica Library Advisory Board. Now, how will that work? They will not be present at this meeting because it'll be discussed and they'll be at the next meeting. Okay. All right.
Wait a minute, no, we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, consent agenda.
Okay. Right-of-way definition. I don't think staff can pull that together by next Tuesday, so we'll just, Mr. City Manager, if you'll just make a note of that. Okay, tab C, we'll have a presentation by Sarah. Okay, Public Works. Consent agenda for item number 1. Yes or no?
Yes.
It's already been done, right?
It's,
Yeah, it's already been done, but we still have to.
Yes. Well,
yeah, there are emergency
Consent agenda.
Let's make it on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item 2, same?
consent.
Item number 2, which is actually consideration of bids to purchase the backup generator. Consent agenda or discussion?
We're going to consider bids. We need to see the bids. Did you give us the bids?
Okay.
And your recommendation was?
Yeah.
Triple B.
Yeah.
Xylem or
Xylem
something.
Shared Services?
Oh, wait a second. Oh, the generator's number, item, oh, I'm sorry. I have 2 item number.
Consent agenda or no?
Yes.
42.
Anybody see it any other way but yes?
The first 2 were.
Gotta have it.
I understand it, I'm fine.
All right.
What do we do?
Consent agenda.
That whole consent agenda.
On
One of them was an
Charlie?
emergency item purchase too.
Okay, work authorization for Curtis Environmental Resource.
I'm okay with that being consent.
Consent.
Yeah.
It's up-
Anybody see
it's
it any other
capped-
way?
It's capped at 5,000.
Okay, work authorization for Infratech Consultants Incorporated, Turnip Seed Engineers and Smart Water Analysis, Analytics.
We need it. Gotta have it, don't we?
Consent.
Anybody see it any other way? Okay. And as always on our public comments, Mr. City Manager, if you will get the right staff person to respond to that, that person.
Mr. Mayor, before you finish up on the agenda, again, I want to emphasize we ought to add in a memorandum of understanding between the Villa Rica Development Authority, Sugar Foods Corporation, and the city. So that needs to be an item added in that's not on this agenda.
So you will add that. Okay. All right, so these are the items I have on consent agenda. Under tab B, item number, they're all messed up. So professional
now-
services agreement with Michael A.
L4,
Knotts.
I think.
That's the first one I have. The second one I have is the emergency purchases, PO number 41624 and PO number 21893. And also for consideration of bids for a backup generator for Edge Road Lift Station. And work authorization with Curtis Environmental Resource and work authorization for Infratech Consultants.
And turnip seed.
Yeah, and EG. Is that what y'all have? Okay. All right.
And
Anything else
Sugar
come-
Foods will get added in somewhere in the agenda. Right?
Say that again?
Sugar Foods will get added in
Lisa said she'd added
the agenda.
Okay, anything else? I need a motion to adjourn?
Get a motion.
All right. Thank y'all.
It's always better to ask for one than to forget one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I did that one time and we didn't adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
So, usually.